Welcome to the Politics News Wolf US channel. Russia is in the midst of its biggest defeat since the day it invaded Ukraine. Fortunate out he could solve many problems for his country and for himself by declaring war on. But it was the worst decision Putin has ever made, with his power diminishing. Day by day, Putin realized that he would lose the war. Russia continues to get unexpected results, surprised by Ukraine's resistance to the poor, and the fact that it is organizing operations without retreating. Russia does not know what. The UK army is forcing Russian soldiers to surrender with operations in their occupied territories. What operations has Ukraine organized recently? What are Russia's losses in these operations and in the vault? Let's analyze them together. Ukraine continues its successful operations. The Luhansk region is one of the regions occupied by Russia. The explosion in Kaka in the Luhansk region. Scared. It is said that the attack targeting the Russian base in the city caused great damage. It is known that the attacks were carried out with him. The deliberation of Kaka was a very important step for the Ukrainian army. As a result of Ukraine's operations, it is known that Russian troops generally had to throw in order not to increase the losses in this region. The Russian army may throw Kaka is located in the Luhansk region. It is about an hour away from the center of Luhansk. It is one of the easternmost cities in Ukraine. Deliberation of Kyiv will be a very important move to liberate the center of Luhansk. If the UK-Ukraine army, which hit Kyiv with HIMARS, continues to be successful, it'll also hit the Russian bases in the center of Luhansk. The Russian army is increasing its measures to prevent these operations. The operations against Russia continue to be successful. This situation has officially become Russia's nightmare. The Russian army, which had to leave the region after the operation in Kherson, will declare that it has lost the war if it also leaves Luhansk. Luhansk is one of the regions on the border of the two countries. If Ukraine liberates Luhansk as well, the borders of Russia will be reached. The successful conclusion of successive operations reinforces to hope that Luhansk will also be liberated. Russia does not want to leave occupied Luhansk to Ukraine. Putin's goal over Luhansk is to destabilize the region. He planned to damage Ukraine's economy and security from this region, but it'll not be as heat out. Ukraine continues to organize operations to win the war without giving up. Zelensky promises that all widgets will be. He does not let the people and the army lose hope. Thanks to the trust in Zelensky, who paints the image of a decisive, courageous, and successful leader, the resistance does not slow down. Everything is being done to liberate Ukrainian territory from Russian occupation. Zelensky has the support of his people, not only with his speeches, but also by holding critical meetings. Despite being one of the new leaders in the world, Zelensky has the trust of his. Zelensky wanted his country to be among the developed the further liberator country. The Ukrainian leader has held talks with Western states close to its policies and made moves to improve relations. He held talks with NATO. After Russian leader, Putin decided to start a war. Putin's fears begun that he did not want a Western and NATO member state on his border. He wanted to prevent this and started to invade Ukrainian territory. Putin thought that invading Ukraine would be very easy, but nothing went as he expected. Russia is intimidated by Ukraine's growing supporters. Putin is holding talks with China and Belarus. Putin wants China and Belarus to join the war, but at the moment they are refusing. China does not seem to be joining the war. It is also hesitant to provide arms aid, but Putin insists on involving Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus, in the war. Lukashenko does not know what the consequences of his involvement in this war will be for it and his country. The Belarusian people absolutely do not want to participate in this war. The fact that he had found many wars from the very beginning of his leadership was enough for Putin to underestimate Zel. He thought that he would soon triumph and the war against Ukraine, and we declared a hero by his people. Putin was shocked to see that Zelensky was the successful side. Zelensky became the name at the forefront of the war. Putin's confident demeanor suddenly became his fearful dream. Zelensky encouraged Twitter speeches. The Ukrainian army organized successful operations with courage. It liberated half of its occupied territories. It inflicted great damage on Russia during operations and resistance according to a list shared by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. Russia's losses were 103,770 soldiers, 3,017 tanks, 6,037 armored fighting vehicles, 1,999 artillery systems, 283 aircrafts, 267 helicopters, 16 mandatory ships at 1,707 drums. Putin's ambition to win is pushing his people and soldiers to. The only thing Putin cares about is victory. The death toll in the Russian army has exceeded 100,000. Winning the war will also give Putin a political game. This idea prevents him from withdraw from the war. For Putin, locked a war means the end of his leadership. With the deterioration of the economy and the political environment in Russia, Putin's attitude has become more repressive. The Russian leader, whose political life was not going well, started to experience even more difficult times with his entering into the war. While he thought the war would be in his favor, it started to turn against him. Putin failed to succeed in anything healed and was criticized by his people. While Ukraine's success earned Eski respect, Putin's failure was losing him everything. Putin tried to cover up his failure by hiding the number of soldiers killed. But it turned out that he was lying because of his lies. The Russian people are slowly losing faith in Putin. Putin is being sanctioned for its brutal violations in the occupied territories. Western countries, which are of Zelensky's side, have also decided to impose sanctions on Russia. The bad Russian economy continues to get worse and worse. Putin's moves are taking Russia to the brink. Putin still sees the only way out of to win the war, but only the Russian leader has to will to win the war. Russian soldiers and people don't believe they can win the war. Soldiers who don't believe they can win are deserting. They surrendering the occupied territories. The defeat is hitting to Russian soldiers hard, and the problems continue to increase because of the disorganization in the Russian army. And the Kremlin is doing nothing for the Russian soldiers. As soldier disturbed by the problems in the Russian army decided to change. This decision was reported in the British press. This soldier was captured and imprisoned. Putin is not taking measures against the surrender and escape of Russian soldiers. Media outlets that support Putin are publishing threatening news for Russian soldiers. They say that soldiers who run away or surrender will be tried for treason. Russia is forcing soldiers to fight. In Russia, the government is making terrible decisions. Putin's government is recruiting prison inmates into the army and throwing dissidents in jail. Real criminals are in the army fighting for Russia. Putin is emptying prisons to imprison dissidents. Russia is unable to make moves to win the war against you. Defeat seems inevitable for Russia. The Kremlin solutions cannot change the course of the war. What do you think about the Russian army being forced to withdraw from the occupied territories? What do you think Russia will do to win the war? What awaits Putin if you convince the war? Share your thoughts with us. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe to our channel to update you with daily information.